I'm Joe Chiccarelli. I'm a producer. I've had the great luck to work with a lot of fantastic artists. Everybody from U2, Elton John, The Strokes, My Morning Jacket, so many others. In this video, I'm going to show you a few little tricks that I use to get more depth, more size, more separation, more width in my mixes.
Casually coming apart, dying while you're trying to start. If you want it loud, if you want to get down, get down. I could be your friend in the dark.
I have a track from an album I just produced for a band called Ripe. It's definitely your typical kind of rock band. It kind of dips into old school R&B, but it's rock and alternative. Let's check out the bass and drums together. Song starts with a drum fill. After sitting with the track for a moment, I kind of felt like it needs a little bit more character. So I remember I tried flanging the drums and phasing the drums and telephoning the drums and just doing a bunch of things, and nothing really hit me. So what I ended up doing is making a super quick bounce of the entire drum kit to a stereo track. And then for the drum fill at the top, I reversed, in other words, made backwards each individual hit. So you have this swelling inside out kind of feel to the opening drum fill. Here's just the reverse. When I put the reverse in, I felt like it wasn't exciting enough, so I threw some distortion on there just to get the backward sound a little bit more aggro and exciting. One little trick I came up with for refining the room sound in the mix, giving me the right space I need where I can hear the room, but it doesn't compete with other instruments, is by tuning the room sound. Years ago, people would do this in the studio live, putting a pitch shifter, a harmonizer, on the room mics. Room mics don't really have pitch, they're just drums. So shifting the pitch has a sense of pulling the sound apart, changing the attack and delay of the room, and pitching it down, which tends to make a smaller room sound like a bigger room or a longer room. So I can show you how I've shifted the room pitch. Pretty respectable room sound. So I found in this particular case, if I just tuned it down a few cents, that it got the snare in a nice spot for me. Put everybody in. The snare actually comes out a little bit more when I bring it down a tiny bit. I love to use a lot of parallels to get punch and size to things. I find that it doesn't contort the original sound too much. I have multiple parallels here on the drums. My main one that gets me all the punch and aggression is done with a SSL style compressor followed by an API EQ. I find API sounding EQs are super aggressive and great for guitars and drums and really add a lot of punch to things. So this is my main parallel that really puts the punch and volume and in-your-face character to the drums. Let's hear the drums with and without the main parallel. Let's go now to the bass, because I'm doing a similar thing. The synth bass and electric bass were different enough that they both end up in the mix going to the same parallel, which gets me more size and weight in the mix. I'll show you the parallel processing, and they're getting some of the same treatments, mainly the compression. One gives me power and size and weight, and the other for character. I'll show you my main parallel here, which really is adding all the size to the bass. That's with it. And without it. There's additional parallels on the bass. It's somewhat jazzy R&B. For my ear, that felt like a chorus effect might be a good thing to give the bass a little bit more character and also a little bit more width as opposed to just being in the center of the record, to create a little dimension around it. I'm using 2 different choruses in with the bass sound here, and I tend to use some subharmonic generator, not necessarily on the kick drum, but usually on the bass, just to add a little bit of 40 to 80 subharmonics. Let's hear the bass with the chorus effect. Really kind of put some more personality in it. And then there's a subharmonic track. Really adding a lot. The parallels are both the foundation, the size, the weight of the rhythm section, but also now, in the case of the bass, they're adding personality.
Like funk with the head of the union, but you just wanted to get paid with you.
We've got the bass and drums in a really good place. Let's start to add in some of the main instruments. There's one rhythm guitar that pretty much plays through the whole song, that really carries the weight of the song, and it's a stereo guitar. There's 2 amps that were recorded live, both adding different tones. There's a Vox on the left, and there's a Fender amp on the right. Let's add that into the mix. You can see these playing different parts within one section of a chorus. Sometimes it's just open chords, sometimes it's a kind of rolling arpeggio. One thing we did to strengthen those is to double just sections with different sounds. There's a double that's playing the chords, one that's playing open power chords that kind of brings a little bit more dimension and impact to that main guitar. In EQing the guitars is I deliberately EQ them differently. The mid-range points are different between left and right. The low mid-range points are different between left and right, which again, that's a deliberate choice as opposed to something you're hearing, but it makes it a little wider by saying, okay, this side I'm going to get 3K to poke out, and on this side I'm going to get 5K to poke out. So these are kind of deliberate choices here, unlike a lot of the other choices made so far that were purely aesthetic. This was a little bit more cerebral, a little bit more planned out. Band very much wanted to get the sound of a band live on the tracks, with obviously some augmentation, some color changes, some sense of the studio and production. When you hear the guitar, you'll see he's playing in that one main pass of the song many different parts, different colors. There's arpeggios, there's muted guitar, there's power chords, there's a number of different characters. So one thing we did to strengthen them was double them with different sounds in different sections. But we also did some octave doubles to make it sound a little bit more modern. And I can kind of show you here where the high octave comes in. And that was done with a little stomp box. It gives it a little bit more character in this spot. And without it. So it's just a moment of personality there in the track. We didn't take the doubling and tripling too far. It was really only in those moments where it needed strength or a color change. One thing I do in an effort to create space with my reverb, I tend to always use pre-delays of some sort. I always try to get my reverb away from the source sound. It gives it a little bit more depth. And the other thing I'm always aware of is not getting too much information in the center channel. I don't want the room that's needed for my kick drum, snare drum, bass, and vocal to be taken up by guitars and keyboards. So one thing I do with reverbs and delays is spread them out. Use some sort of a MS plugin or frequency shifting plugin that will spread things apart. Let me turn the reverb up so we can see what's happening. Bypassing the spreader. The frequencies tend to pull it apart left and right. So again, I'm just leaving a little bit more info for the sides and not clogging up my center channel. The next major element in the song are the horns. And the horns are simply just a trumpet and trombone doubled. There's really not much done to the horns in their individual tracks. I put a little bit of body in on the trombones. Everybody thinks you're not supposed to boost lower mid-range frequencies. I'm never afraid on guitars or horns or whatever to boost 200 or 300. There's all the warmth and the size and the musicality. You can see I'm adding a little bit of 300 on the trombone double. And again, the frequencies are just a little different to give them a little bit more spread left to right. In this case, I'm not using a parallel on the horns. All my 10 tracks of horns are being bussed to compression, EQ. I'm adding some spark on the top end. I tend to take out, especially if I'm adding a fair amount of tip top, meaning 10, 15K, I'll often take out the octave below that. I find it makes it a little smoother. So I'm dipping a tiny bit at 4K, but boosting a fair amount of 10K. And then doing similar down on the low end. I'm boosting a bunch of 300 and taking a little bit of 200 out. So I'm just kind of finding my two spots that I need for the horns to poke through the mix. Now that we've got the band in a good place, we can move on, add the lead vocal. Getting the right vocal sound is really important to how it sits with all the other instruments. Typically what I do is size up a singer. When I'm in that rehearsal room working with a singer with a 57 or a 58 on a PA, I'm kind of checking out his voice and seeing what character has to pop through the track and what's important in it. I'm then matching the microphone to the singer. Every single singer is different and kind of needs a different treatment. Robbie, the singer in this band, has got a big voice, really powerful voice. We tried a lot of different microphones. We ended up with a Sony or Tonelux C37 microphone. The interesting thing about these Sony style microphones is that they have a way of subtly compressing the mid-range and taking a singer that has peaky, edgy mid-range frequencies and softening it, but in a way that doesn't take the power and the character away. It's almost like there's a built-in compressor in that microphone, and there certainly isn't, but it has a way of softening it and allowing the vocal to sit in a different place so it's not competitive with the guitars and keyboards and drums. So choosing the right microphone really is the key. In this case, I'm using equator to get some of the ugly frequencies, the troublesome spots tamed in the vocal.
Your friend, Mr. Officer Harrisburg, gets you up to say he's out on the town.
And you can see I'm not using too much of it.
Says he needs a new manager,
Some lower mid-range and some mid-range that's being tamed by the plugin.
Well shot! We cut ties on the table until the morning got like stuck in your teeth.
We all get hooked on the newest, the latest plugin. I was mixing this track when Studio Verse came out, and I ended up trying it on the vocal. I'm using just a little bit of compression and just a couple of little things from the plugin, but not much. Let's see what it's adding.
Your friend, Mr. Officer Harrisburg, gets you up to say he's out on the town. Full Sail says he needs a new manager, so he's wondering if your ex is around.
Little volume difference, but definitely adding a little bit of spit, a little bit of edge, a little bit of attitude.
Like it's Holy Communion, like it's confession for the bridges he sold.
For me, I find that I'm disconnected with the song if I don't have a sense of what the lyric is, what the story is saying. So that's really, really important for me. I find that most people don't complain about a track if the vocal's too loud, but they will complain if it's too soft. So one thing I do with vocals is I set up a VCA. In this case, for lead vocal VCA, my double and my lead are going to that VCA. And I'll use that to do my main rides on the vocals. You can see these are moments of sibilance. So the way I like to de-ess is by just bringing the attack of the S's down. I find if I just bring the attack of it down, it sounds a little bit more natural. And you can see there's moments here where I'm raising words that got a little lost in the track. That's done on a second pass as opposed to my main VCA pass.
Casually coming apart, dying while you're trying to start. If you want it loud, if you want to get down, get down. I could be your friend in the dark.
I have a track here on my lead vocal that I've labeled vocal spins. What I've done is set the delay at a value that seems right. If I feel there's a moment in the song that could use a little color, I basically take those words or that line or that sound, that vowel, and drag it down to the spin track. And all of a sudden, you have a moment in the song where it's got a little bit more character.
Cut ties on the table until the morning got like stuck in your teeth. Tough start for the top.
Okay, in addition to the lead vocal, there's about a dozen tracks of background vocals. All of Rob, the singer's harmonies, are going through one group. The females are going through another group. I like background vocals, especially with this type of music, to sit in a place where they don't eat up too much of the lead vocal. It's kind of important how you get the backgrounds to sit. So in this case, I really like them being just a little bit of a halo around the lead vocal. They just kind of envelop him, fill it out. They're not too competitive. They're not equal to the lead vocal. Let's play a chorus and hear it with the backgrounds in solo.
Casually coming apart, dying while you're trying to start.
If you want it loud, if you want to get down, get down.
So two very different characters. I'll play it to you with the lead vocal in. You can see how they sit with the lead.
Casually coming apart, dying while you're trying to start. If you want it loud, if you want to get down, get down.
So you can really see that they're just kind of highlighting the lead vocal. They're really not taking over the track at all. They just become a color around his voice. They just fill it out. They're almost kind of like a vocoder in some ways, you know?
What a joke, what a lie.
I hope this shows you some tricks that will help you to get some stereo spread, some size, some depth, whether it's using a reverb in a more spread out style, or if it's pitching down your room track, or if it's parallels on your bass to get more weight. Thanks for being a part of this. Thanks for tuning in. Any comments, feel free to send them my way.
I could be your friend in the